Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors Podcast, your trusted source for outdoor information and entertainment. The Greenway Outdoors is also an internationally syndicated TV show and conservation advocate aimed at bringing millennials and Generation Z into the outdoors. Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors.
Hello and welcome to episode 50 of the Greenway Outdoors Podcast.
Hey-o.
I'm Kyle.
I'm AJ.
I'm Ryan.
What's up, guys?
Not much.
Doing pretty good. Not happy with this traffic today, but we live and learn.
It's weird.
I'm late every week, so it's like it's just a standard for me.
It was an odd one today. Came out of nowhere.
It was. I think there was an accident. What'd you take, 23 or?
Yep. The 23, yeah.
I came from 75 and it was still awful. If that makes you feel any better.
75 is always terrible.
Yeah. I came from the gymnasium, though, working on my fitness.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Ryan, I would think for the average listener, or I guess for sure the watcher, they would think that we have a different co-host every time. Because Ryan looks so different all the time. First of all, I've never seen him in a jean jacket. I never thought I would. Not saying anything against it. I'm just saying I dig it.
I'll never wear it again.
I know. I'm just saying I didn't anticipate it.
It's garbage.
Secondly, but your hair is just always so different. I don't know how you grow it so fast.
I like it grows abundantly fast.
More than anyone else. Mm-hmm. If your hair grew that fast, you'd be stepping on it walking in here, AJ.
Easily.
I mean,
easily.
It's just, it's
I like it. I like it there. This little outgrown look.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. How do all your little girlfriends like it?
I appreciate that because I did absolutely nothing with it.
I don't want you to ignore me on that. What do all your little girlfriends think?
I don't ask them.
Nice.
I let them deal with me, and that's it. And
they're welcome, right?
I always let them talk about themselves because that's what women really like.
Oh, nice.
You're sensitive. I like it.
Yeah, that's very sensitive. That's what it was. Speaking of sensitivity, I've got a story that I'm very sensitive about, that I'm really upset about, but I'm not the only one that's upset.
Nice.
Animal rights activists, hunters, everybody is excessively upset about this. And what they're upset about is the fact that there was two kids. I say kids because they believe one is a minor, but they hadn't quite found out who it was yet as far as who was the actual big issue with the whole thing. They've got two suspects in mind, but two guys in Pennsylvania had a deer they shot it, and the deer was down, and then instead of putting it out of its misery, because it clearly wasn't dead, my guess, based on the footage, was it probably had its back broke, because I've seen that before, was not dead, head up still, and instead of putting it out of its misery, they took to punching it, kicking it.
Jeez.
And they videoed all this, making fun of it while they were like stomping its face until it was bleeding, and it was still alive. Instead of just putting it, and they're laughing and swearing, and they're like, try and grab the antlers, don't let them stab you, and they're like laughing.
Jeez.
I mean, honestly, it's too much to watch. It was too much
hard to describe.
You saw the video?
I did. And it was hard to find the video because...
I was going to say, because I read about it, and
right.
I had seen some things about it, but I never saw the video.
I had to see... In order to see the video, I had to find a guy on YouTube who talked about the video, who showed a clip of him watching the video in order to see the video, because the Facebook, it was originally posted on their own Facebook page, the video.
Okay. Why would
They posted it?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and then how does anything else?
That's true.
How else
They
would it get?
expect like a cheering audience or
I
something?
thought maybe they sent it to somebody.
That's what I was thinking, AJ. Like, what about you thought this was good?
Yeah,
It's like drinking and driving and then posting about it. Like Snapchatting, like two cops. So someone posted it. Hey, cops. So the DNR took someone posted the video to a DNR site or a hunting page or something like that and said, look at this. And the DNR responded saying that it was inhumane and awful and likely broke the law. It was breaking a law. I'm not specific on all the ins and outs of the laws that would specifically break.
Because you don't do things like that.
True. And I don't even know. I think that, and a lot of people may not realize this, especially from the outside, hunters are so well managed on their own, without, their own regulations.
We don't take a lot of supervision.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like the maturity level is normally very, very high. And then people think, well, you're killing them. So, of course, you're killing them and they're suffering and this and that anyway. You're shooting them. But, with the aim small, miss small mentality and trying to lethally kill an animal quickly and effectively so it doesn't suffer is obviously something that we always practice. So to see someone who shot it and it was downed, when you see an animal, first of all, taking life is no gentle thing. Like, it's violent, but there's a sense of violent in order to live. You know what I mean? In order to live in this world and consume anything, there's violence. If it's plants in a field, we all know that every animal that would have come into that field to eat those plants has been killed and dismembered by combines or by Monsanto and pesticides and the farmers and everything else to keep them out of there so that they can grow the crops that they need in order to get it. So even if you're a vegan eating a salad, there's more death in that salad than would be in one arrow that kills a deer. 100%. No questions are asked. So you literally can't navigate this earth without killing something or violence existing. But the idea is that we're supposed to be godlike, where we're above the violence, or we're above the situation in a clearer, deeper mind and way of thinking. So, meaning, yes, I know I have to kill that deer in order to eat. Just like a coyote knows that he has to kill a mouse to eat. Just like a wolf knows he has to kill to eat. Just like a bear knows that he has to kill to eat. Obviously, the bear might be an omnivore, but still, death has to happen in order for these things to happen. They know that. We know that. But we're supposed to have compassion. Now, other animals don't. That's something that separates them. Animals don't have compassion when they kill something. And in order for these two individuals to not have compassion to that level where the suffering brings them joy, it tells you that they are animals themselves. And the problem is, anytime, like, you get a group of people together, Joe Rogan always says this, you get a group of 100 people together, you can guarantee that one of the people in that group is an asshole and that he's going to represent that group bad. And that's the truth in this situation too, where, you know, you might have one in every 10,000 hunters that would do something like this, maybe even 30,000. Maybe these are the only ones in the world that would actually do something this heinous, but they're the ones that are getting all the press now, and then people are using that to say, look at these hunters and stuff, and the press couldn't wait to get a hold of it. You know, the press couldn't wait. And, you know, we can try and turn it around, the hunters can, as a voice of, like, alienating those people and saying, well, that's not us, and here's why. So at least it gives us the opportunity to do that. But seeing it, dude, the video was just... it was like I wanted to just show up and beat the living daylights out of them and put the poor deer out of its misery. Like, I don't know how you could, like, look at that and be like, that's cool. Yeah. Let's kick it.
Let's get our jollies off on this.
Yeah. It's horrendous. And, you know, they made a terrible shot, too, way back on the deer that it was in the, and up on my guess's spine. The video wasn't very clear, and luckily it's been pulled down from everywhere, so you probably won't be able to find it, but it's all over the news, and everybody's talking about it. And so the DNR said that they think they've got it narrowed down on the two suspects as of 2 days ago, and they were going to, this was like December 2nd, that was when they announced that, and then they were going to go after them because they believe they didn't break the law. I hope they get absolutely land-based and can't ever buy a hunting or fishing license again.
Yeah, that would be nice.
And to be honest with you, I'm not even against jail time. I mean, if you did that to a dog, well, why is a deer any less? Yeah, just because we shoot and eat deer doesn't mean that it's not a being still. It's alive. And, like, the deep respect that we have for animal, like, I just can't imagine seeing it suffer like that and be like, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's a good thing. Like, it's such an uncomfortable thing. Brings up the axis deer hunt in Hawaii. You know, we had a situation where, and I'll go through this a little bit because it's in an actual full episode, so I don't want to, like, ruin the episode. So Ryan was with me at the time. Jeffrey and AJ were out doing God knows what. But go on with the chlorophyll. Yep. But Ryan and I were out on the axis deer hunt, and we were trying to, basically at the time, we found this ancient Hawaiian culture wall that was built hundreds of years ago by people. And we were looking at it. It was so interesting that I was, like, picking up this rock that was laid by someone hundreds of years ago in Hawaii. And all of a sudden, Steve, the guy they were with, he's like, Kyle, I see antlers. And then it was So this is perfect for the sheet of paper move.
Here we go.
So if this whole thing is like the pier that we're on, it's like this is cliff on every edge. We're like right here. And basically, he saw the antlers somewhere right here. So this is a long ways, about 300, 400 yards. So I was like, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll walk up. If you think he was kind of going around one way, let's check here off the cliff and see if we can see him in this valley here. And we went there and he wasn't there. So then we said, all right, let's look at this one here, because that's where he was. And we like snuck up. All right, he wasn't there. Then we come over here, and I'm not convinced it's the same deer. I'm not even convinced Steve even saw anything, but
I don't know. I don't think I for sure don't think it was the same deer though.
no, because then we came all the way down here to here, and then when we came down here, I spotted it. There's like a little drop off here, and then the cliff. When I walked up there, out of my right vision coming through the trees, I just see this set of antlers, and I'm like, down, 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 and we just jump to the ground real quick and get to one knee, and my heart was pounding, but I had my shooting sticks, and luckily they were all folded in. So when I went down to one knee, it was like the perfect height. It just worked out perfectly. And Ryan, I don't know what steroids you were on, but you got like the best footage that there ever was of this.
It all worked out great.
You see me see the deer and also see the deer in the corner when he didn't even know the deer was there. Did you see the deer before I said down, down, down?
No, I did not.
Still filmed it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Got in frame.
in the corner of the shot, I'm on the left side of the screen. I'm saying I go down, 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 and on the right side you see it coming through the trees.
Okay.
And it's down in a valley a little bit away from us, maybe 60 yards or so, but real close. I mean, 60 yards, no joke. And he gets right down behind me, just full stealth mode. Steve gets down too, which is funny because Steve doesn't hunt, so it was like cool to take him out there. And I'm like, teaching someone to hunt while filming a show is not an easy.
No.
But
He did well though. Steve did really well.
He was not any. I think he was so new to it that sometimes you get somebody that new that they're crazy timid, so they don't do anything wrong because they're so cautious of every step they take, which can be helpful. And he spotted. I mean, he was very helpful. But so the deer jumps, or I get to one knee. Steve dives to the ground. Ryan gets down, and the deer definitely, they're not stupid, but he's more curious about us. We're in Hawaii, and you don't know how often he's been hunted, but he looked curious, and he did like the stomp thing, but he moved forward just enough that I had a clear shot at him, and I had the shooting sticks in one motion, the shooting sticks and the gun on the rest. Clicked the safety off, and he was like doing a stomp, and Ryan goes, "Yep," or something. I think all you said was "Yep." Which means I'm on him.
Good to go.
Do your thing. But he must have been on him in the footage when I reviewed it. You were on him for 6 or 7 seconds before you said that.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think Ryan had the wherewithal to be like making sure he got footage so that the only footage we didn't have was the thing getting popped.
Yep.
And then once you said that, though, I didn't know that you had already been on it that long because I couldn't believe that you were. But you were basically on it the entire time, which was impossible, but somehow you pulled it off. And then I was like, waited a few seconds, and then I shot. Now, when you shoot a whitetail, and this is something you get used to, when you shoot a whitetail, they'll normally do like a big kick, and they'll run away with their tail down, or they'll get knocked over. There'll be some sort of visual impact that you're sure of. I line up on this buck, and it's an axis deer, and I shoot, and all the deer does, and I felt really confident in the shot, and it's only like 60 yards.
Nice.
And I mean, I was zoomed in on a hair, but I shoot, and then I'm like, all of a sudden the deer just starts running straight away. No visual sign of impact. Tail is in the air, and all it did was just start running. It didn't kick, it didn't anything. It just started running. And it looked like from the sound, I was like, did I just miss? I was like, and then I'm thinking, we're in Hawaii. We've been on the plane. I've been climbing up the side of a mountain half the day. I probably bumped the gun or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like
off your sight.
Yeah, there could be a million reasons why I missed, but I was like, I hate everything about my life right now.
I was pretty confident that you hit it.
Why?
But
why? Because I sure wasn't.
Because thought I saw it on the camera.
Okay.
Just being zoomed in as tight as I was, I thought I saw
the deer's the whole frame.
Nice.
But the way it ran away was like, oh shoot, that scared me. Gotta go. Not like, ouch, gotta go.
Right. Yeah, it was way different. Like, you see the doe that I shot this year in Michigan.
yeah.
And that thing...
It was like a lightning bolt through the woods.
And it was all jacked when I was running and stuff. And I'm thinking, even if I hit it, I obviously made a terrible shot. And that's what I'm thinking. Because I'm like, what is going on? So we end up going up there, and we find blood, but very little blood.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it looked like great color.
Yes.
But then I was like, is it great color because it's on the red... You know that red clay sandy dust stuff that is
Very
Hawaii?
dust. Yeah. It's everywhere.
Yeah, it gets in your wounds.
Oh, yeah.
It's everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
But there's so much dust, and you'll see that in the episode. But I was like, is it because of that it looks so glowing, like almost like a lung shot that it would make you think? And
that's what I thought it was because of how bright red.
I was like, that's good. But why is there no blood? I was shooting at 270. Should have gone hot right through, no problem. So we go walking up, we go following the blood, and we're just getting pin drops. I mean, pin drops, not good. And
There's 3 people trying to track this thing.
Yeah.
We're all spread out on this path we thought it took, following that track the best we could.
one drop at a time.
Yep. Like
One drop at a time.
10, 15 yards apart, too.
Not good. Mm-hmm. Not good. And you get the way he ran, like, the way he crashed over stuff, it got confusing where he was because we could only go by sound when he was actually running once because he disappeared out of sight pretty quick. And it was like, this is what
And it
makes
was almost
sense.
dark, too.
Yeah, that didn't help. If he it would have been great if that was where he dropped, but obviously with my luck, Jeff makes the worst shot of it anybody's ever made in their entire life. And he flinched just straight up, and he hit the back leg. And then somehow in the back leg, it happened to be nice enough to hit an artery and a bone, bounce forward, and then go up into the lungs, and then kill him and drop him instantly. If I would have shot him in the back leg, we would have never found that deer. That kid, you gotta love Jeffrey. He
like to walk like 10 yards too. It was like where he shot it is where it went down.
Oh, it never moved.
He didn't have to track it at all.
He killed it instantly by shooting it in the back leg. I'll never. Yeah, he flinched. In his defense, he flinched. There was a pack of like 40 deer that he shot it out of, and they were all moving around quite a bit, and I think they all held still, and then he had a clear shot where he could shoot through the big buck without hitting any of the doe or the spikes or any of the other deer, and then they all, right as he went to shoot, moved, and I think that's...
But it went down right away, though, right? I mean, that's how
by an act of God, yes, it went... Yeah.
Sound like
the
it was
bullet
there.
went in, did something around the back leg
and never
area,
exited.
and then went all the way up into the lungs. Well, it got
like
the guts and everything else on the way there. It
Oh, yeah.
But that's like an anomaly beyond impossible.
And when they're in a group like that, it's almost like zebras have stripes in big herds like that to confuse
These
the
guys got all
predators.
spots and stuff.
It's kind of like that a little bit. When they're all moving like that, it's hard to almost like track one individually.
And he did a good job. He was ethical, but he just got lucky.
Yeah, because we walked up to it, it was done. There wasn't much breathing.
The deer was
none.
The deer was not running. If that sounded confusing, it was standing still when he shot it.
Yeah. It's not like we were shooting a running deer. But
it's nice when there's a pack of 100 in front of you, though.
Yeah. Which one do you want? The one with the big things on its head.
Yeah,
I prefer that than
It is weird how
waiting all day for
few
one.
big bucks there are compared to the herd itself, though.
Yeah.
There'll be like we got herds of like 100 on camera.
Hundreds.
And then like 3 of them would be decent bucks, and the rest would be spikes or does.
Yep.
Or like this amazed me when we were on our way back at nighttime after we had gotten your deer finally, and we saw a couple eyes in this field, and then we get to this bigger field, and I shine my flashlight on it, and then I whistle or something. I made a noise, and you could see a few eyes, and then when I whistled,
They all
it was like bop, 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 like hundreds of eyes.
It's something you can't see
It was
in the
insane.
mainland.
No,
You really can't.
No, it was incredible.
They got nothing to do but get ate.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's no predators in the entire island either, and they just wipe out fields.
So they just live out lives then?
Yeah.
From baby to
Well, they have to hunt.
dead.
I mean, they have to be hunted.
but
and the other thing is they don't have a rut. Well, they have a rut, but they don't have a one season where they reproduce. Like in Michigan, females get knocked up during the rut, which would be like November, normally first or second week in November through December, we'll say, and they'll get bred during that time, and then they'll drop their babies in April, May, very latest June, and then they raise those, and then back when the year turns to winter again, in November, December, they'll do it again.
Okay.
Well, axis deer aren't like that. They'll have babies, and then 2 or 3 weeks later get bred again, and then again and again, and they live more
They're
in
nonstop.
They're more in packs than they are anything, which is interesting because the one I got was alone.
Yes.
It was the only time
that was another
I
thing.
saw a deer on its own. Mm-hmm. The only time.
That's I remember.
Which is
Another weird thing is, like in Michigan, you see dead deer on the road, on the side of the road
None.
all the time.
None there.
I didn't see a single one in Hawaii. And they were everywhere.
I blame that on the pack thing. You're less likely to be surprised by a herd of deer than you are
That's
by
true.
one.
Oh, okay.
The only deer we saw alone was the one I killed.
They tend to see, like, unless you're like running up on them on like a side by side or something, they seem pretty kind of relaxed.
Yeah.
Just because they don't ever have to worry about anything.
Right.
So that could be another thing, that they're not just
They were cool with the
bucking it
drone,
across
that's
the
for
roads
sure.
and highways. Yeah.
Yeah. They were a lot nicer to the drone than AJ was. But anyhow, I'm sorry. Anyhow, back to the story. So we've got the deer now. I'm finding just drops of blood, and I'm like, okay, this isn't good. Well, Steve wanted to venture ahead and start checking because he thought he heard something. And I was like, no, Steve, you always stay with the blood. You go drop by drop. You don't go ahead. You stay with the blood. He's like, okay. And he's like, so then he stays with me. 20 minutes later, he's like, I'm going to go ahead and check. And at this point, I'm secretly angry at the situation because I'm like mad at myself, mad at whatever happened, mad at the world. So he goes up ahead, and then you come over and show me. You go, Kyle, I want you to look at the footage. So we look at the footage on the camera, and there is a clear impact in the kill zone on the deer, like a good impact on that deer. And we slowed it down by frame, and you could see the blood squirt out.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, that's the right area. Like I hit that deer well. Like you can slow it down, you can see exactly where it impacted. I was like, that's a kill shot. I don't understand that. So then Steve yells, hey, I got him over here. And I was like, great.
Nice,
Now he's learned no lesson because
Yep.
now he goes ahead and he's learned nothing by staying with the blood. So we go ahead and we get up there. And as soon as I get up there, the deer jumps up, and it's on the side of a cliff, and silly salmons, which if you don't know what silly
It
salmon
really
is,
did.
he literally goes and jumps off the cliff.
It's a real cliff too.
It's the gulch.
Gulch,
I
yes.
called it gulch.
Forgot
the whole
about
time,
that.
But,
Nice.
He silly salmoned off the whole side of the cliff from us pressuring him. I was like, you jerk, because I hear him crashing down the side, and every crash, I'm like, there's another 45 minutes. There's another 45 minutes of me trying to lift it out of there. And now I feel bad too. I'm like, that fall had to have killed him. So then we immediately start going down after him, which in retrospect may not have been the smart move, but we were also fighting the daylight and everything else.
Oh yeah.
And the point is, I had a sense of urgency to want to kill him because I did not want him to suffer any longer. Like I wanted this to end and recover him and just end the process of him being killed, quickly as possible. And when he jumped up and did the silly salmon, his whole side was all red. So I right in the kill zone, and I'm like, what is going on here? Like, why is this deer not dead? So we end up going down, and then there's a huge drop off of the cliff where it's like, I don't know, 400 foot straight vertical down, like off a cliffside. I'm like, he must have fallen down there. I'm like, felt so bad. I'm looking around. Then from behind my shoulder, Steve goes, got him over here. And I'm
Again.
Like,
Steve kept-
this
yeah.
guy.
He's
this guy
defying all logic.
Yeah, I know. Defying all logic, all odds, all everything. So then I backtrack, and then through the tunnel of trees, I can just barely see him. Like, barely. And getting to him is impossible.
Oh, yeah.
There's branches, like, you're on a cliff, the side of it.
It was weird what he was
vertical's
in.
like he found like this cave thing.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
It was like there was trees, and then the dirt had washed out from underneath it, and then those trees had fallen over and made some sort of like cover over the top of that edge, and then more trees had grown up above it. It was a really weird thing.
He must have tucked himself in there on purpose, though.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He got in there on purpose. So now I'm looking at him, and he's right on the edge of the drop off of the catastrophic cliff.
Yeah.
And we're parallel with him now, and he's only 20 yards from us, maybe less, maybe 15 yards,
yeah.
somewhere in there. The problem is there's so many logs and sticks and this and that. There's no getting to him, but I can hear that he is alive. Mm-hmm. And my heart sank, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to try and shoot him. Now, the problem is, for those of you who don't know this was a good lesson I learned as a kid with a bow, but your scope is above your gun barrel, right? So when you sight in a gun, let's say at 100 yards, which is what my gun was sighted in for, that means that at 100 yards, this point and where the bullet goes will meet. Now, a bullet doesn't fly straight. It goes up and then comes back down. And there's an arch. Some are flatter than others. I was shooting a 270, so it's one of the flatter of the projectiles. But it's an arch all the way till it eventually hits the ground. The problem is when you're that close and there's so many logs and sticks and stuff in front of you, if you look down the scope, you can't just aim at the deer because that deer is not 100 yards away. It's only 15 yards away. And there's logs where the bullet will actually go because it'll go up first and then down. So it'll basically the bullet is going to hit far lower from where I think it will based on its initial rise in projection. So I'm like, if I aim directly at the deer through the scope, I'm going to miss is what I'm saying. And the problem is there's no good way to aim then because if I look through the scope and I'm like, well, I'll just aim a little lower, well, then it looks like I'm going to hit the log. So then am I even on the deer anymore? So where do I aim? What do I do? And it got really confusing. And then Ryan goes to me, and this is a dilemma, you know what I mean, that we're having. He goes, if you shoot again, and because of the situation, you're likely to miss, even though at 15 yards.
Wow.
You're going to upset it, and it's going to die. It might jump again.
That's why
There is another hour.
Yeah.
No, we won't get it. It'll be gone.
okay.
Yeah, there was no getting the deer back after this. And so, like, I understood completely where Kyle was coming from, that he wanted to just put it down. But my worst fear was that it was going to be...
Runs off its last percent of energy.
It would have been gone. It would have absolutely been gone.
Especially if I missed. And the likelihood of missing is high because... I can't explain to you. I'm seeing just pieces of the deer. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to thread the needle to make the shot.
Seriously, I was trying to spot the deer too.
He couldn't see it.
And I'm like looking through like a crack in trees like this, like trying to, like, I can just see a little bit of brown and
tuft
white.
Of fur.
Yeah.
So, and the sound it was making was consistent with what lung issues. Mm-hmm. So I know that there's at least one lung hit, and I'm just confused by the shot and the placement and why this deer isn't dead yet, because I've never seen this before, and this is like a whole new experience, and I feel awful. Like, it's a terrible feeling. Mm-hmm. Nothing worse feeling for a hunter than losing something you shot, hurting something and then not recovering it. And number two is, like, you want a decent human being wants this situation to end fast. Like, you're so grateful to the animal and that it's your meat, but you want this over with because you don't want it to suffer anymore. So we sent Steve up to go get to call Jeffrey, who's to have him come over with his side-by-side to try and help us lift it up, because we know that the hike back up the mountain is going to be a hellacious one.
Oh, yeah.
Steve starts walking up the mountain. This upsets the deer. He starts doing exactly what our biggest fear was, that he's going to get up and move with every last drop of what he's got, and he starts to get up. So I just lift up my gun, and I go, I have to, and then whatever reason, like, we're all so connected as four brothers. Jeffrey's not here today, but as four brothers, that's like, I needed Ryan in my, I don't know why. I do know why, because of how close we are, and like, we validate each other a lot, as like family. And I go, I got to do it. And I didn't even click the safety off until he said yes. Like, I needed,
Nice.
like, it's such a stressful situation that, like, you need that, like, teammate, like that partner, like that verifying person that you care about to validate that you're making the right choice. So I end up not looking through the scope, trying to look down the barrel, and I realize I can't because the scope mounts and stuff are in the way. So I just kept both eyes open and used, like, shotgun mentality towards it, and then shot and dropped it.
Yes.
And I know as soon as I shot the second time, it shook like crazy, and I was like, I did it. Because I was so worried that, like, it did like the shake and was dead within 2 seconds. Then it starts sliding off and I can't get to it still.
Oh, yeah.
It starts sliding off the mountain then, because it was like right on the edge. Starts sliding off. Its antlers got caught in a tree branch, and then the whole body went off, but the antlers held it up there. So
That's
it was like,
what
The antlers were hanging. The antlers were holding it from going off the cliff.
This will all be in the show too.
Oh, yeah.
It was nuts. It would have been if it was a female, it would have slid right off.
Oh yeah. If
would've
they
been
didn't have
gone.
antlers, it was gone. Like off a cliff, like
Yep.
400-foot drop in a gulch that you'll
Yeah,
never get to.
no.
It's gone. It's not navigable.
No. That's no.
Where we were
I remember
barely-
the terrain.
Where we were was barely.
Like when
I
people
don't-
are
I
like,
don't
"Well,
know.
you could have climbed down." No, I
Nope.
couldn't have.
Nope.
I would have parachuted down maybe, but then I can't parachute back up.
Paraglide down.
All right, now I got to the deer. Now what? And it's all jelly.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So anyhow, the point of the story, other than it's an interesting hunt and
To combat the
the mentality of someone
yeah.
that shot a deer and walked up to it next to a tree with the enjoyment and no stress level, just enjoyment of the suffering, and then to kick it in the face and disrespect it. Like when I walked up to the deer, I was so foggy at the time, because then too, we instead of just walking 15 yards to the deer, we had to climb back all the way up the mountain, move over 15 yards, and then proceed to go down to it. We had to climb back down because there's no way to get to it between just that 15 yard was
Yep.
impossible.
So we had to go back up and around, and then getting down. That was a whole nother feat because you had to like. It was like this.
I almost went up right off.
Yeah. No, seriously, and then that's on film too.
Yeah. That catch was one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Yeah.
I literally, I fell and then grabbed a branch and caught myself with one hand.
Dude, it was not good.
You laughed. In the footage, you laugh.
Oh my
You go,
God.
oh.
It was not good.
Yeah, I almost
Close
lost.
one.
Yeah, we'll be able to dramatize that a little bit in the show. But so we're climbing down to it, and like the first thing when I walked up the deer, first thing I said was sorry. Like, I'm
Sorry.
sorry, man. Like, I did not want
It was
that
a tough
for you.
one.
That's true.
I wanted it to be...
You didn't want that.
No. You want it to be quick, clean, and ethical. Now, here's the truth. In a deer, especially let's take our home state of Michigan, a deer is going to die of old age. Never. Because here's what they don't just get old, have a heart attack, and die.
Fall asleep in the field.
Yeah. If a deer dies, it's going to die, hopefully, with a clean, ethical kill from a hunter. Because the other options are being attacked and dismembered by predators, whether it's coyotes, wolves, bears, whatever it might be,
Yeah.
attacked and dismembered while being alive.
Yeah, while alive.
Starvation, or painful disease death,
yep.
likely resulting in the predator kill that I talked about. Mm-hmm. Those are the only options. The nicest of those options, and the one that actually prevents the others, is a hunter taking it. Because if a hunter takes it, one arrow, one bullet, one animal, then you're leaning out the population so that there'll be less starvation, as well as protecting them from having a slow, horrendous death, and you're utilizing the meat to further mankind. And if you're so against factory farming, people are going to eat meat. How about a quick, clean, painless kill? Now, the problem with these idiots is they ruined that image. Because hunts don't always go perfectly. I just explained to you how they don't. I had the
Frustrating.
greatest of intentions, and it didn't go perfectly. But it ate my soul up inside. And any true hunter is going to know, through all the television programs and stuff like that, they always make it look like it's a perfect, easy, clean kill with no issues. And to be honest with you, you fear backlash to do anything different. The Access Deer episode is going to be a hard one to edit with the fear of the backlash and stuff. Like, frankly, I don't really care anymore. Everyone talks about me anyway. So,
Yeah.
But we have to represent in a way of what it is. It's like,
Yeah.
life is violent. You know what I mean? Like, life and death is violent, and we're a part of that system. We're not above it. Now, we have compassion and God-given ability to oversee the wild game, but it's our responsibility to do it in a respectful manner. And
Utilize it properly.
And utilize it properly, not waste anything, and for the very, very least, show respect. You know what I mean?
Respect is a big factor.
Respect is like, thank you for giving your life, thank you for feeding me. The fact, there's a line in the movie A River Runs Through It that I always really liked. It's about discipline, actually, but they don't say that. And he says, the dad is really stern in the movie about learning to fly fish properly. And he says that a man that doesn't know how to fish properly should never be able to catch a fish and disgrace the fish. Meaning, like, you have to practice and become effective and well versed and well educated, well skilled in harvesting the fish properly in order to disgrace the fish by catching it. Because if you do it immorally
catch it and
or
then
improperly
butcher it.
and do a bad job, it's a disgrace to the fish. And that the fish has such an aura and such a soul to it that, like, you should not disrespect it by doing it wrong. If he could only see that there's idiots like that. And they're not hunters. And I like if no one called them hunters again. Every article calls them hunters, but they're not.
They really like doing that.
Thankfully, hopefully, they won't partake in that
right
again.
Right. And that kind of brings up...
Stick to your grocery store.
Yeah, he deserves it. But hopefully, I think there should be jail time. Because I imagine...
It reminds me of two things. The suffering part reminds me of how... I was so annoyed earlier in the spring. Isaac and I had drove up on a doe that had just been hit. Oh, I
remember the story. Yeah.
And we called the cops to come put it down because, I mean, it's in the middle of town. Or not really. It's
kind of. You're in a neighborhood.
You're
not allowed to discharge a firearm in the middle of the neighborhood downtown.
Yeah. There was enough houses around that wouldn't have been okay.
Correct.
And so we called the cops and...
It's like by a mailbox, keep in mind.
Yeah. And we called the cops and let them know, and they never showed up, and we sat and watched this thing suffer for an hour.
You weren't allowed to kill it because you weren't allowed.
They said, don't approach it, don't do anything. So at that point, I'm listening to that. Next time...
Don't call.
I'm not calling.
No.
I'm going to figure out a way to end that as soon as possible.
Did they just blow you off, too?
Yeah, they never showed up.
Yeah.
Even though they said they would.
Yeah.
But thankfully, we got a salvage tag and we were able to utilize half of it because the other side was just...
Was hit by a car?
Oh, yeah. It had 3 broken legs and...
Poor thing.
Yeah. It sat there.
That's another way it's going to die.
Yeah. Hit by a car. That is true. I forgot one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that one's not too great either. And there's a lot of them
common in
that suffer
Michigan.
that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in Michigan.
And then the other thing that this story reminds me of is those guys who walked up in Alaska.
The bear.
Yeah. And just started
shooting inside
capping
the
around.
den.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got in trouble.
They got
and
in big time.
I feel like the
trouble.
punishment should be very similar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Strap a fine to their parents. You know, it's partially their fault.
Yeah. Oh, I hit the family.
Hit the family,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, the fact is, like, that's someone with mental health issues.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a hunter. That's a mental health issue person.
You know what would be a good punishment is to put them in some sort of like...
oh, God. Ryan.
Put them in some sort of experiment.
Put them in the choke.
No. Listen, where they get put into some sort of like experiment.
Like Clockwork Orange.
Like Maze Runner, where they have to use nature to survive. Like they're not given any resources where
That
they can
sounds
just
like
go
a
to
big taxpayer fund.
No, you just drop them off in the middle of
Put them
some
in
woods and
Dr. Phil's camp and...
send them to the camp.
Yeah, send them to the camp.
I'd rather just have 5 minutes in a locked room with both of them.
There you go.
Yeah, that'd be a good penalty. I'd enjoy that.
Well, the idea behind just dropping them off in the woods and them needing to get food is you'll respect it a lot more when you're starving.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yours is like almost like they'll either learn to respect it and need it, or they'll die.
Yeah,
that's good. I like that. Cheering against them, but I like it.
Yep.
This actually kind of brings up the next story, which is Donald Trump signed a executive order making animal cruelty a federal crime, which is pretty awesome. Now this is obviously from the left and the right a pretty well received thing from both sides.
Yeah.
Who would?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is
like that?
Oh no.
Yeah, well, when you talk about who wouldn't like that, it's actually
it's the dog fighters.
Yeah. You guys are making light of it with good reason. The point is though is that there is in some people's eyes a fine line, which obviously to us it's so dominant that we can make jokes about it, between hunting and animal cruelty, and also. Because then you started lumping, they call those two guys we just talked about hunters, right? So then all of a sudden those kind of get lumped together, and it's like, well, how is shooting a deer with an arrow and then not recovering it? Let's say you shot a deer and couldn't recover it, it survived. How is that not animal cruelty then?
No, it is.
And then it's creating, but it's not punishable and shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be.
But
it is.
you understand what I'm
fine
saying?
line.
Yes.
So now you're seeing where there's like
Yes.
kind of a
or even dog training dogs. There's some forms of
there's a line
dog
there.
training that can be perceived as pretty brutal by
I
some
don't like
people.
seeing it.
Like your dad had to tell the neighbors, like, if you hear some things, it's all good.
Yeah.
He's just learning a couple things,
Yeah, exactly.
And he's a happy dog.
The forced retrieval thing is just, I mean, it's like,
For those of
I don't know how to explain it without making it sound terrible.
Yeah, right.
But
Tough
it's
sell.
really not. But it just sounds terrible because of the way dogs are.
Go ahead.
It's when you're teaching them to retrieve, and there's a couple ways different. You tie string around their paw and then through their toes, and then you put what you want them to retrieve in front of them, and you say back or whatever your command is.
Yeah.
And if they don't pick it up, you pull on that string, and it hurts their toes. And eventually they'll learn either
If
I
I
pick
pick it
that
up-
up, it won't hurt.
right.
And that's just it. But when they're making their squealy noises, it sounds terrible,
it's
but
no
they're
different.
fine.
It's no different than spanking or
Right.
swatting or whatever dogs that the people do for
Right.
different breeders and different trainers and stuff like that. And
That brings up a good point. It's like, where is the line? You
Right.
know? That's,
right.
That's
now, I
that's
think
clever.
we can all agree that if you have a dog and you're like a terrible person, you like leave it outside, or if you're like
Yeah.
beating a dog, or you're if you're
Malnourishing.
malnourishing
Taking
it,
your
or-
aggression out on it because you had a bad day at work.
Right.
Yeah.
right. And I don't even get how someone could hit like that. I don't understand. Like it's such a weird.
There's the level of
Like I never understood
teaching and then
getting
aggressive.
a satisfaction from it.
Yep.
It's just a dark soul
Yeah.
that would ugh. So I just wanted to touch on it because it was something that people were bringing up. Is that I'm in big support of the law, and I think it's great too that hunters alike can understand that animal cruelty is awful. And I consider what these guys did, allowing the deer to suffer and kicking it and punching it and all these awful things.
Yeah.
It's rough to watch. It is they 100%. That's animal cruelty.
100p.
But I will say that as that line is navigated of where the animal cruelty is, but still respecting hunters' rights to be able to go out and harvest their food, like I said, hunters are very well regulated, self-regulated. It's like I just want to make sure that the goal of that law, and it is right now, is to stop animal cruelty and not step one at making hunting bad.
Yeah.
That's and I don't believe it is, and I'm
don't think
very
so either.
supportive of it now.
But you could see someone trying to manipulate
You could
it
see,
into that.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you could. It's like a firm understanding of like, and that's why it's like to me, it's common sense. You don't malnourish dogs. You don't beat dogs. You don't torture deer. You don't torture any animal.
No.
You don't have terrible living situations for farm animals. You don't. There's like a million It's like common sense. You don't do those. But are you able to go out and shoot and harvest a deer clean and ethically and consume the meat? No, of course. Like to me, this is common sense. But the problem is through legislation and idiots. You've got the possibility that this could turn into a used situation to stop using common sense and start trying to manipulate the law to fit your
Well, I mean,
intentions.
hopefully some people will be like the example of the punishment if it's bad enough, you know?
Yeah, I don't know though. I think anyone dumb enough to do that is like a mental health issue that I just can't imagine ever hitting a dog or hitting like punching a deer. Like when I get up, like I'm like so grateful.
Yeah.
It's literally like someone giving you a gift card for free of like $500 to buy meat for your entire family, and the first thing you do is kick them in the face. That's literally how much it doesn't make sense to me. Like that's how it's perceived.
That's an awesome example.
You know what I mean? Like I just don't get it. I don't get it, but that's the world that we live in, unfortunately. So we have people like that. And then those people, stop calling them hunters because they don't represent us. So
Nice.
last week I went on a rant and it did pretty good. It, like hundreds of shares on Facebook, tens of thousands of views overall between the podcast and the clip and everything like that about the bait ban that's taking place in Michigan. So brief update if you didn't watch episode 49 or season 2 episode 5 I think of our podcast, which is available on NRM Streamcast as well as Carbon TV as well as YouTube and everywhere you can find podcasts. Whitmer, who you're seeing the picture of right now, Gretchen Whitmer is the governor of the state of Michigan. there was legislation that was passed that was saying we should lift the deer bait ban. And obviously I was in support of that. I do not believe that moving apples from underneath an apple tree slightly closer to your deer stand creates chronic wasting disease.
So funny.
And you're never going to stop deer from licking themselves. And if you want to hear the rant, go to last week's podcast. I won't go through the entire thing again, but I went into great detail. Anyhow, legislation passed and science prevailed where everyone realized that was a dumb law.
Thank goodness.
And it got all the way to Gretchen Whitmer, who's the governor, and she is elected to veto it, meaning it won't pass, meaning baiting will still be illegal, because she believes that baiting will change the way deer move in their paths and will spread diseases, which is highly incorrect and not backed by science.
It's crazy that the disease trend is catching so much.
Yeah, which is what's
momentum.
Which is why Ted Nugent is so boisterous about speaking out about chronic wasting disease and using real numbers, and they don't even really, according to him, they maybe have 2 cases where it actually killed the deer, but they're advertising it like it's always fatal and it would ruin the whole population and this and that. Diseases, and I told you the conspiracy theory that a lot of people believe that they were using diseases like this and building them up because they were trying to, there's like an underground movement where it's like if you scare a bunch of hunters into thinking that there's all kinds of diseases in the deer and stuff like that, they won't want to hunt anymore. Less people hunt, less people care about the Second Amendment. It's like one step towards that as like a conspiracy theory. But I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I could see how the result might be correct, though.
Never know.
Yeah, you really don't anymore. So anyhow, unfortunately, you have someone in a position of power, and I'm not speaking as a Democrat or Republican or for or against either side. I'm just simply saying there is so much stuff that you have to know in these public offices, and you've got these career politicians that went to school for how to be a politician that, like, it's not backed on science and it's highly incorrect, and the hunters that are actually in the field know how dumb this law is, but it's like she's making the opinion, and I don't even think, based on the information that she's probably being given, I probably wouldn't even disagree with her if I was in her same position where I didn't know anything. And she's never hunted a day in her life.
That's what I was going to say. Is,
you know what I mean?
Whoever's feeding her the information is just that's solely what she has to go off of. So the poor woman doesn't really know what's happening.
Yeah, she's completely ignorant to it. And it's her job to find out. Yes. 100%. But the people supplying her are likely, it's a...
Because you also have to think about how many other issues she's dealing with.
Right.
So don't misdirect your anger at her, but try to find a way to communicate your issue to the government so they can understand better.
It's possible that maybe by year's end, or the data that comes back of maybe there was a less license, people were buying less licenses than previous years, and money talks. So if they're like, well, the past 3 years before the ban there was this much money in hunting, and now that it's banned there's less, and so maybe and
that's what funds the DNR as well as the anti-disease efforts.
Maybe it's a mistake that needs to be made so the government understands.
But this isn't the first time it's been made, though. This is one of those back and forth laws, and the problem is, it seems like, from what I'm seeing as a humble kid watching the government, it seems like we continually make the same mistakes over and over again.
It's kind of crazy, like you and I being 30 and kind of having from seeing how the world was, 20 years ago when we were kids to now, you're still like, a lot of things that come up, you're just like, this is still an issue. Like, I thought this was supposed to be done 15 years ago.
And I don't want to go down to like a dark path or anything like politically, but dude, I remember being in high school and them teaching us how dumb socialism and communism were, like talking about it. And my teacher was extremely liberal, and he was like talking about the failure of it, why it failed, how they consistently failed over and over again. And now you go to like the college campuses and stuff, and socialism is being pushed and celebrated. And it's like, well, what? Come on, you know what happens? Like it just repeatedly. And it's like Marxism making a comeback and stuff.
Well, no
it's
one's
like
ever practiced true socialism.
No one's done it right. Yeah,
no one's done it right.
I'll do it right though. It's like millions upon millions of people have died because of those things, like because of thinking that way.
Millions of people have starved to death because
Remember
of
the guy
it.
we met in Venezuela that had to come here and leave his whole
Not
family?
in Venezuela. We were in Miami.
We're in Miami, but we met the guy from
he's
Venezuela.
from Venezuela.
Yeah. And he's like, dude,
He's like,
don't like socialism or communism. It's very bad. He was like very concerned about it.
He was working the cash register at Marshall's, right?
No, he was the Uber driver.
Oh, it was
He
the
was our Uber driver. Yeah.
Okay.
The guy at Marshall's.
Oh, that's right. Yep,
Guy at Marshall's was very rude. Not that guy.
I don't
We went to Marshall's as a group.
Love
we go
it.
everywhere.
We're a weird group. But anyhow, the point is, there's a lot of lessons that don't seem like, no matter how much you mess them up, like people are always going to like retract right back to them. And unfortunately, you've got the other quick note that I want to make is like things like this are where there appears to be laws made that are widely hated by the hunting community. And I can tell you that by the hundreds of comments we got, there's like 2 people out of like hundreds that were for the ban. And then once challenged by me at all, because I was bored on a Saturday, who reads the YouTube comments, right? Once I challenged them back, they ended up reversing, both of them did, to like, okay, well, I just don't want to bait, but I get what you're saying, and I don't think they should ban it. It's like, well, how much overreach do you want from the government that you don't get to make any decisions? Now, the problem is, like, so Whitmer's also said that she's going to be in support of all these decisions being carried out by the Department of Natural Resources. They're the experts. They should be the ones making the scientific-based decisions and not the hunters who just want stuff. Which, like, sort of sounds like it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
The problem is when it's obvious that they're making decisions that aren't based on science, or that it's the facts aren't all in and there's like 2 different sides, and the side that isn't the most practical gets picked. Like, it's like, well, maybe we don't want them to be in charge of everything, but I also don't want it where it's just a free-for-all, because it should be based on science. But there's like a distrust going on between the DNR and the hunters. And since we've started the show, the goal of this show, if you look at our mission statement, is to sell more hunting and fishing licenses so that people, 60% are sold to white males over the age of 55. And the problem with that is once they're gone, we won't have the money in order to fund the Department of Natural Resources and the conservation of the species, and the conservation organizations won't have the members they need in order to fund. That's it. Those are like the 2 sources of funding to protect our natural resources. So if you want to have good water, woods, animals, wildlife, then you need the hunters and you need the conservation organizations. If we don't replace them, we're in trouble. But like, as we've been doing this, there's been such a growing hatred inside the hunting and fishing community where like the communication between the DNR and the hunters has been so severed, and it's
They're not very
deteriorating.
well liked right now.
No, it's deteriorating to a point where I want to help, because I want to live in a world where the DNR is making all their decisions based on science, and they're gathering a great deal of that science and information from the hunters that walk the woods every day. Because somebody like Gretchen Whitmer in public office vetoing a bill who's never hunted a day in her life is obviously, that's not practical. That's not a practical decision.
I wonder if like the default image of the hunter, the flannel, the beer gut, just that image. I wonder if that is
In her head.
Yeah, or just like that's the image of people that have hunters. So like they think, oh well, they don't know anything. They're just
they're not picking like us.
backyard, dentist or something.
Yeah.
I
I don't know. I think that demographic, it certainly has changed.
It has changed.
But I don't know if it's
the
understood
demographic
yet.
isn't understood yet, though.
The image is haunted
Correct.
by it still.
Yeah, is it forever there? I mean, there's like, that's still 60% of hunting and fishing licenses are still sold to white males over the age of 55. That's not saying they're all flannel and beer guts, because that's not the case.
Exactly.
But I'm saying, like,
to the naked eye, that
right, and they hear those numbers and they think of deer camp and beer drinking and all those different things.
Yep.
I've never had alcohol a day in my life, and I take physical fitness very important, and I use this to eat. You know what I mean? We're going to skip a couple topics here, but we are going to jump ahead to talk about our wild game dinner. So our premiere party, Red Carpet Wild Game Dinner, takes place on January 3rd, and it's from 5 to 8:30 p.m. and it's going to be held at the 242 Church in Brighton, Michigan. And it's a wild game dinner with one heck of a menu. We're going to have an elk carving station, venison meatballs, pheasant casserole, rabbit, squirrel gravy, potatoes, all kinds of good stuff. Amazing food. There's going to be tons of prizes there from our friends at Carbon TV, Ram Trucks. We've got the Sportsman Alliance is going to be there. The guy from Time's Up Outdoors are going to be there. We're going to have all kinds of prize giveaways, stuff like that. There'll be a red carpet there where you can get your picture taken. We'll be doing meet and greets, and we also have after dinner, we're going to do the prize giveaways, but also feature the very first 2 episodes of our show. Like, the church is like a mall size, so like the auditorium is like one of the biggest in Michigan. It's absolutely beautiful. Mr. Putman, Bill Putman from TLC's Meet the Putmans, is going to be the keynote speaker there. We'll be featuring the 2 episodes. The first one will be sturgeon, which next week we have a guest coming on the show, sturgeon expert, who's incredible. I talked to him for about an hour on the way here. So he'll be coming on next week's podcast to talk about sturgeon in the Detroit rivers as well as the St. Clair River. And we'll be featuring the sturgeon episode and the Axis deer episode on that night. And it'll be fantastic. Tons of prizes, great food. It's a family event. We often have a lot of kids there. This is our 4th annual one. There's always a few hundred people there, and it's a really good time. We'd love to have you join us. Tickets are available on our Facebook. If you go, there's a Facebook event, and it's always at the top of our Facebook right now, and we're always posting about it. We're doing a giveaway right now. If you buy your tickets before, I think it's the 15th, then you can be entered to win 2 Rambler mugs from the Greenway Outdoors, which is pretty cool, and we'd be doing different prize giveaways in the lead up to it. So we hope to see you there. Check it out on our Facebook, Greenway Outdoors Premier Party and Wild Game Dinner. It's going to be fun. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Greenway Outdoors. Find us on Carbon TV. Find us on NRM Streamcast, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube pages. We'd love to hear from you. If you are listening to this podcast on Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, however you kids are doing it nowadays, you can visually see our ugly faces and sometimes some great B-roll by checking it out on YouTube, Carbon TV, or NRM Streamcast. We are live Thursday nights at 6 p.m. on NRM Streamcast as well through their mobile apps, Roku. It's on basically every platform now, so check it out there too. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Greenway Outdoors podcast. Stay green.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Greenway Outdoors. Check us out on NRM Streamcast, YouTube, Carbon TV, and everywhere podcasts can be found. Please submit all show ideas to thegreenwayoutdoors@gmail.com. See you next week. Stay green.